This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, just another voice in the wilderness. Today I'm going to talk about manufacture scarcity as class warfare for social control. Manufacture scarcity is one of the tools used in a class organized in classes or castes controlled hierarchically, and is everywhere. Especially, it's not because it's organized hierarchically. It's organized hierarchically for the purpose of funneling the wealth upwards to the top of the pyramid, and for the control of property and assets, resources and land and everything in the hands and institutions, in the hands of the few. Manufacture scarcity is not only about putting people looking for work, making people have the need to look for work, as it has it is a more broader and comprehensive political, economic, cultural and social set of tools, or is a full toolbox for social control. It has the elements that makes us that takes away from us the many political agency, economic agency, and social agency, as well as cultural agency, that transforms us through the process of learned helplessness. We just become peons that we do not have. That's the problem of a society that signs the relevance for the individual, and then every one of us thinks, and we all think that we are important. We know that we are not important, but we have this self. This is not about self-esteem. We have an understanding of ourselves that is irrealistic, that is not compatible with the reality, with the political, economic, and social reality, and that is on purpose, because we are supposed to have this self-importance, which is not the same as self-esteem. Manufacture scarcity is more than austerity. Austerity is part of the is one of the elements used for social control. But manufacture scarcity is, in my opinion, is what we need to understand if we want to understand the kind of why we are deprived of the means to live, based on myths. The myths that we don't want to work, that people are lazy. People are naturally we do not want to work. It has to have a meaning. We all need to work. I believe in a society and then in an economy that is, I call it sufficiency and reciprocity economy. I don't really buy into this. I understand circular economy, this and that, and the donut economy, and this and that. I understand all of that, but I think that we need to put the human element on it, you know. A sufficiency and reciprocity economy gives immediately or connects immediately with the idea of sufficiency is the idea of ecologic, and reciprocity is connected with social. As social beings, as we are social beings, not these individualistic, self-interested people, that we can be that, and that can be intensified if the social rewards and the economic rewards and cultural political rewards are designed for that purpose. Of course we will become dishonest. It intensifies or enhances the characteristics and the antisocial characteristics that we can develop, but they are not necessarily the ones that are predominant on a social species that have survived because of not because, but on the basis of cooperation and reciprocity and tolerance and empathy and compassion for each other. When some supposedly scientific papers that are fraudulent, that painting our ancestors as brutal, as this and that, even today we can find indigenous people, they are just like us. They are kind, they care for the elderly, they care for the young, they share, and they are profoundly, they have the sense of a profound social belonging. It's not only group belonging, it's just it is because it's impossible to imagine the survival of a social species as a species that has the characteristics that we have: a long infancy, okay, a long childhood. It needs support. Of course, there have been and thousands and hundreds of thousands or millions of groups, of cultures, you can't find groups for every that you can use to justify that the so-called scientists, okay, can use to justify their own biases, ideological and cultural and political biases, okay? They are not trying to explain history. They are not trying to be what they are doing is to justify an existing system that for those that believe this is the correct system. And so they paint it in ways, they frame it intentionally or not in that way. And we all do it to a certain extent. Every time we use language to explain or communicate or justify or whatever, we frame it. We don't, we are all biased and prejudices. We always have prejudices, have references. We cannot avoid that, but we can be honest. Okay, many of us really want to be intellectually honest. Manufacture scarcity, along with the enclosure of the commons, that's what transforms us into mere cogs in the machine, because we need to survive. Okay, the survival instinct makes us comply and adapt with situations that are morally questionable, and they go against the dignity of life, and the dignity of life in a more broader sense, but the dignity of our own existence. And nevertheless we do it on the basis of being only fulfilling a duty, to make a living. And the interesting thing that we do, many of us do not understand that these around these ideas, there are narratives that have been crafted to justify it and even glorify it, and of course politically and legally allow it, and transform into systems that we recognize as our environment, as the fish bowl where we swim. And most of us do not have the inclination or whatever to try to understand it in a comprehensive, holistic way. And when we talk about class consciousness or class war, many of us that belong to the lower classes, to the middle class, lower middle class, working class in general, for the people that are deprived of the means to live through the structure of manufactured scarcity, to the structural reality of manufactured scarcity, they don't even understand that they are under perception manipulation. And that has to do with our nature, with our social nature. We are supposed to influence each other. We are supposed to participate. This is we don't not only belong and need to belong to a society. We might see ourselves as independent, self-reliant, and all these BS concepts that just try to deny ourself, our profound social nature. And again, I always, because social and cultural nature. But the fact that we not only need to belong, we need to participate. We need to relate, to interact. I mean, this is nobody. I think it was Aristotle said. That's one quote. I do not remember right now. It was, I think, a man living alone or something. It has to be a god or mad. I just popped up into my mind, but I do not remember it correctly. But it's something of this sort, that it's a stupid idea to believe in this concept of self-made man, and this, without society, And by society, I mean without the community, without the tribe, without that's how we evolved, that's how we survived as a species. We could not even survive, exactly because that's our nature. That's the nature of our species. That's the very condition. And so we need to become sick, because what we have now is commodified relations based on convenience, based on the interest, and that just makes us sick and trying to survive by transforming us, by going against our need to trust and to share and to have a creative and constructive. That's what I call positive. It's not about positive this and positive that. It's about constructive and creative relations to a positive society, to a society of well-being. And this has always to the holistic element, because we cannot understand it. This is not a cultural, it is a cultural problem for sure, but it's cultural, economic, political and social. It is to talk about what kind of society of well-being is not about roses and it's about a society where people do really have the opportunity to have meaningful lives, meaningful relations, not by being intentionally manipulated. We are influenced, we influence each other, but we should have a culture where the critical thinking is trained to not allow the worst among us to take, because they have advantages. That is for sure. The worst among us, they have advantages over the rest of us. The ones with psychopathic, sociopathic, narcissistic, megalomaniacal tendencies or traits, personality traits, they have advantage over the rest of us, because since they do not care about the well-being of others, they will do no matter what. They will use all the resources they can get in their hands, human resources, quote unquote, natural resources, financial resources, whatever they can, in order to build a political system and a legal system that allows them to do what they want, and they will create a moral code to justify it, to glorify it. And this is as simple as that. And when we look and we want to have an approach to how people are manipulated, in generally speaking, we need to look for these traits, for these patterns. They are everywhere. That's how it is. Because of our sociocultural nature and condition, or the condition, the sociocultural condition of our nature, we are so easily influenced and manipulated. And we need a culture of liberation that liberates us, that really, truly, we are trained, we train ourselves in order to have a culture that doesn't fall for those that keep calling themselves saviors, heroes, leaders. They have the things that we don't have. So therefore, they should be allowed to lead us, and we don't need that. Manufacture, scarcity, and the enclosure of the commons, the primacy of private property, and the primacy of unlimited wealth accumulation and private control of everything. This is what transforms us. It's what allowed them to transform us in adversaries of each other, to competing for scarce resources. They are not scarce, they are made scarce. This is easy to understand. Just think about a small place, a small village, and the surrounding land, forest, river, agricultural land, the commons. And then you allow a few families, or 1, 2, 3 families, to take control of most of it, or then what are the rest of the population? If they control it, they can toll it. They can say, if you want to have access to water, you have to pay. But if there is no money, or if you have no money, you work for me. So what is your condition then? Is a servant. You are a serf. You are not a free man. You are a free man when other free. If and when others around you are also free and can discuss with you the policies at the same level of power. Because we have to talk about power. Power in a class caste society, organized in a vertical hierarchy, it's about power and control. Who controls what? To dominate whom? And if people do not have these lands, or do not develop them, of course, if you refuse to develop these lenses because you associate with communism and socialism and collectivism and all other concepts that you believe are evil concepts, because they want to take your private property. They are totalitarian and authoritarian and this and that. Of course, they don't believe in God and all these things that that can keep people away from understanding, to having a true, a fact-based, comprehensive understanding of how society really works. Not just these fantasies, these fictions about how society works, about the free market and the evil state and evil government. Yes, governments can be evil, and the state can be used against the collective interest, that's for sure. Why? Why is it used? You follow the money. You just identify those who benefit, and then you see, and you see who are the culprits. Why does it work like that? Why does the state, instead of providing universal services and having the monopoly and having the control, the monopoly of certain of infrastructure and the basic assets like energy, energy, water, which means and roads, and all these basic services and schools and hospitals and all the rest. No, it's not because we cannot have. And banking and money is the sovereign. Money is the symbol of sovereignty in a society that is based on money. So if it's the symbol of sovereignty, or one of the symbols of sovereignty, how can it be controlled by private ends and for private profits? And how does it work then for the benefit of all of us? If the state, which is you and me, okay, the state is the institutions that are supposed to control, to organize and manage the territory within a specific borders that we call country, okay, that we are supposed to be proud of, and that we're supposed to even give our lives to defend it. But the state itself are not supposed to represent us or the well-being of all of us, because it's bad. How does that work? What kind of stupid set of beliefs make us demonize the state? Instead of thinking the state is required in a complex society as we have today, we need a state. It would be impossible. It would be impossible to have a functional system such as our society is, very complex, with millions of people and layers of problems, and a lot of it requires organization. But that organization doesn't need the structure we have today is not democratic. Okay, we can call it managed democracy, which is just another way to say that is managing on behalf of the interests of the oligarchs and plutocrats. That's what it is, not for the rest of us. And the lens, that's why, if we already are deny ourselves the right and the opportunity to develop this lens, to understand how manufactured scarcity is used to control us, while telling us myths about meritocracy and about the need to put us to work, to look for work. What kind of work, even? If there are so many works that can be, that could be suppressed, that are unnecessary, while other works, other services that should have been more people working, they are not or well paid, or they are not recognized, or whatever. That's we can and we could easily organize our societies in a completely different way. But we don't, not because of lack of resources. That is totally a total lie, but because of lack of consciousness, the lack of a transformative process, a conscious transformative process that would allow us to understand the reality that is our societal systems and civilizational paradigm, and then work and organize and unite to fight for a true ecological holistic civilization. Not only ecological, it has to be holistic. And a political economy, a social and ecological political economy, which I mean the one I say it's a sufficiency and reciprocity economy. Strong beliefs, they can keep us, they not allow us to open our minds and hearts, because when we become fanatics, it means that we are the emotional bonds, the cognitive, affective, implicit memories. This affective or emotional bond is very strong, and we always react with, especially the social emotions, which are associated. Social emotions always have a prejudice associated with it. It have a notion, a concept associated with them. Because if we despise something, or a cultural, or a political, or an ideological, if we despise it, it's because we have this emotion is associated with a negative idea about it. Okay, that's how we grow, and this ideological and cultural framing, as well as political, they can be reinforced as implicit memories and long-term memories through repetition, consistency throughout time, in a particular culture, group, by a particular institution, or as part of the whole system, as part of the story that legitimizes the existing structure, the existing system and environment, socio-cultural and economic environment, that we take for granted, for example. But also about our particular, that's how diversity is not an example of democracy. And why? Because diversity can be just one way to tribalize us and instrumentalize us. And it is, actually, it is. That's how liberal systems transform us into useful idiots. That's exactly how it works. That the diversity of opinions exists, the political diversity exists, and it has some meaning to a certain extent. It's important that it exists, but in the end, it is exploited superficially, which means that they don't allow to go to you never go to the roots of the problems. You never get a comprehensive understanding, a holistic understanding of the problems. What you have is the superficial dispute, that just is very useful because it because it keeps us divided, sometimes over minor issues, not because they are not important. Every issue, every problem is important, but we need to understand the origins of the problems and the connections, and and why do they exist, instead of fighting on the basis of the who is for and who is against. This polarization of the issues that are not that have only one purpose. Yes, to keep us divided, to tribalize us and instrumentalize us against ourselves, instead of that we need to understand the plurality and diversity, that nobody is going to agree in everything. If I believe you need to be open to the reasons why I believe that in certain circumstances abortion is necessary, is important to be a right. But I also understand. But there is also the need to understand that, in general, we should be pro-life, which means we should not kill. But when we talk about kill, and we are talking about a human being, we every day kill, and kill in many ways. And we have a society and a system based on killing unnecessarily and causing unnecessary suffering, but we don't discuss it. That is not for discussion, because we are not supposed to discuss the system, the existing system, because again, it's on the supposition, on the assumption that this system, okay, is not perfect, has a few flaws, and sometimes there are some mistakes are made, and wars and this and that, but in the end, that's the only system that works. What that tells about our critical approach of this very system, and how our lives are organized, how the economy is organized, and how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive life and nature, and how we build relations among us and with nature and with the environment, with the life itself and the cosmos itself. Do you really want to understand the things as they are interconnected, interdependent, and the consequences of it? Or we just want to kind of give excuses and justifications to prolong for as long as possible the existing system and the existing civilizational paradigm? And for what purpose? It's do we believe that it's because just that we try to avoid change? That's because many of us don't like change because of the uncertainty that it entails? Or is it because we are instrumentalized and we are victims of very powerful human public relations strategies to control us, literally control us, to take over our minds, not with a single, and this is not exactly totalitarian, but it's exactly by managing diversity, by using diversity to manage us and to keep us divided. Unity or class unity doesn't mean that everybody has to believe to think in the same way. That is impossible, and it's not the purpose, because there are many differences. So there are generational. There are many differences that do not. That it would be impossible to have that kind of unity. Only works with dictatorships or authoritarian or totalitarian regimes. And if you want to avoid it, we need a different approach. That's why the debate of ideas is necessary, but not the cult of personality, which means that it's about ideas, not about people. Because if we keep attacking people or idolizing people, transforming them into the culprits which they can be, and they need to be accountable for what they do. People need to be accountable, that's for sure. But that in many ways prevent us from, or keeps us blind to see the systemic causes, to understand the systems, which is absolutely necessary, because if you want to understand the reality where we live, we need to understand this through the understanding of systems and processes and relations. Because everything is in relation to something else, or happens in relation to something else. So there is always context, and then that is obfuscated many times by people fighting each other over their own prejudices and biases and agendas. And this is not this is why we are not able to move, or one of the reasons why we are not able to move, because we have we use the wrong framing, the wrong ideological and cultural framing, which means the wrong intellectual tools to move forward. This is why academia, instead of playing a positive role, it is, and because they can afford to spend their time and intellectual energy in these islands, in these building these islands of knowledge, instead of being of processing it in a holistic way. And most of the time is individuals or schools of thought just fighting each other for preeminence, and I'm talking about those that try at least to be intellectually honest. But then there are those that are just tools of power. Unity is not about compliance, but unity is about solving problems, achieving conclusions, building a critical mass, and not about division, especially division based in the view in particular views, because we will never achieve absolute agreement, but we need to compromise, and we need and that's what allows us, or what allows these especially academics to build their own islands. It's because of knowledge, is because they do not need, they live in their own bubbles to a certain extent, and they have the meanings to live, so they don't they can keep doing their research independently or within their group or school of thought, and they just try to beat the concurrence. This is the opposite of unity, of building holistic understanding. There's no compromise. There is just this is again about people, about personalities, about the cult of personality, not about not about really reaching conclusions or having policies or objectives to be met. It's not because individual voices are not important, but it's because we need to have a collective voice, a voice of unity. And that voice of unity is not to nullify, it's not to shut down the dissent, or not to shut down diversity. Is just to integrate that diversity and to achieve a common cause, to have a common cause. And this is why the pervasive pursuit of individual interest is so predominant, and so many of us do not fully understand how pervasive and how destructive that mentality is, and how deeply ingrained in our minds, in our cognitive processes and implicit memories that is. And that's why we need these kind of reflections, this comprehensive, this conscious transformative process. I mean, cultural, and about it is an introspection process to liberate us from the tools that are the narratives that control, the dominant narratives that still, the systemic dominant narratives that to a certain extent keep controlling our way of reasoning, of processing thought and understanding reality and behavior, that dominate our behavior and our thought processes. It might seem not related to the purpose of my monologue, but everything is interrelated, and we need to integrate it in a system of thought and understanding and comprehensive understanding of the reality where we live. And if we want to achieve a level of consciousness necessary to free ourselves from the shackles of imperialism and capitalism. So that is all for today. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.